Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Pitch Side Podcast channel. I'm your host, the HOD of the PSP. Like, share, comment on the video, subscribe to the channel and enable notifications to receive all the updates from these match recaps and other content on the channel, including the podcast, which you can listen to on Spotify, Google Podcast or any other platform. And of course, follow us on social media, PSP on Twitter, Pitch Side Pod on Instagram. Let's get straight away to business. We're coming straight after the game between Eintracht Frankfurt and Bayern Munich ended in the Bundesliga, and I really find it hard to express myself, but the point is Bayern should get a right back. Seriously, Bayern should get another right back. Of course, the injuries and the absentees for Bayern made this game already hard against Eintracht Frankfurt, but that right-hand side of Bayern's defense is seriously a weakness point that most teams would exploit now, like going forward. And this comes at a bad time, considering that you have a game against Lazio in the Champions League on Wednesday. It's going to be really tough to try and find a formula to defend on that right hand side. Starting with Söhle as a right back wasn't exactly the best of options. I always feel bad when Söhle starts as a right back, and I certainly wasn't wrong. The two goals coming from that right hand side. Frankfurt knew that Söhle is pretty slow, so they put probably all of their weight on that right hand side. Daichi Kamada, again, one of the most underrated players in the world, I think, scoring the first goal from the Filip Kostic assist, who's been all over that right hand side in the first half. There, of course, with Kimmich and Roca, and I think with Roca lacking kind of the intensive nature of Goretzka. He's a baller. Don't get me wrong. Roca is a baller, but still, he doesn't have that aggressiveness of Goretzka. I thought maybe he would start with Alaba in the midfield as well as Kimmich, and start with Alaba and Roca potentially to have some sort of balance in that somewhere, and start with Lucas Hernandez on the defense. I think Flick chose the wrong personnel for this one, and the start was pretty bad. Again, Eintracht Frankfurt were all over that right-hand side. They had a terrific first half, attacking strongly. Two goals that are, ridiculous in their own way. The first goal, Kostic with the run, the cross to Daichi Kamada, who's been unmarked, and a simple tap in really in the 6-yard box. And the second goal is just a brilliant finish from Amin Younes. Kostic again, the run, cuts back. Amin Younes just, turns, cuts inside Söhle, shows him the outside, and just rifles it into the top corner. No chance for Neuer to save in that. That was a beautiful goal. And then, of course, after this first half an hour where Bayern conceded twice, they went forward, and I think Sane, is probably the only light at the end of the tunnel for this game. He had a terrific game. He was running that right-hand side pretty well. He was beaten Dika almost on every one-on-one in that game. He was delivering, he was helping, making assists, I think. And obviously, the only way to get to him was to make transitions from the left to the right, because Söhle, as I mentioned, is not a proper right back, so he won't give you those runs or overlaps you'd expect from a proper fullback if Pavard was there, or even if Bouna Sarr was there. I'm not deputizing for the fact that Bouna Sarr should have started, because I think he shouldn't. I probably think Kimmich maybe would have filled that position really well, and you put Alaba and Roca, Alaba and Goretzka in the midfield, but that didn't happen. And, Bayern ended the first half on a couple of occasions. They've been mostly toothless in the first half, and they ended on a couple of occasions for Choupo-Moting, a couple of occasions for Lewandowski as well. Koeman had a chance, but Bayern couldn't score in the end of the first half. They started the second half pretty strong. The first 20-25 minutes pinning Frankfurt in the defense, and Frankfurt dropping really deep, trying to conserve the 2-0 lead. They couldn't. Lewandowski scored in the 32nd minute, and I thought, well, this is the way back for Bayern, and particularly with Goretzka now on, that midfield, I think, was more under control than usual. But as the time wore on, and Bayern, failed to finish their chances, like Koeman had a golden opportunity from a Sane cross that he couldn't finish, and as the game wore on, and as Eintracht Frankfurt started to making their substitutions, making more sort of defensive-minded substitutions in most of them, the likes of Elzanka getting in, and Barco getting in, players who have more fresh legs to keep the defense away and to sort of deny Bayern the spaces that they want to, and with a combination of Bayern's bad finishing as well as some good defending late on in the game from Eintracht Frankfurt, Bayern failed to be dangerous for the rest of the game and failed to score. And on the other side, there were a couple of occasions where Bayern were completely caught on the counter-attack, and only a last-minute tackle or Neuer getting out saved Bayern from conceding a third goal that would have killed the game dead already. But anyway, this is a loss that doesn't boil well for Bayern ahead of the Lazio game in the Champions League. It will certainly give some bad signs for the fans, give them bad signs for Hansi Flick. The only good signs is going to be sending for Eintracht Frankfurt, because they now go third on the table with that victory. Sends good signs for RB Leipzig, who's going to be keeping the 4 points gap. At the very worst, they're going to be keeping a 4 points gap, because if they win tomorrow, it's going to be 1 point behind Bayern, and imagine that at this point of the season. And of course, Lazio ahead of the Champions League. They now probably know a game plan, and they certainly have the players to target that right hand side, the likes of Luis Alberto Correa and Immobile, Caicedo, Murici. This is going to be a tough game. It's going to be a tough week against Lazio in the Champions League. And again, I think a deserved loss, because Bayern had a bad first half. It doesn't matter that they scored in the second half or they had a brilliant game, because as much as you don't win, and as long as you don't win, it doesn't really matter. It goes up all in the smoke, and Hansi Flick, I think, needs to make a reconsideration for his style of play, for his choice of personnel sometimes. And I know he's limited by the injuries but you can move the pieces of the puzzle differently. You could move them differently so you can have a better formation and a better standing on the pitch, really. It's a frustrating loss. It's one of those frustrating losses where you think Bayern could have done better, but again, there is at least a way out. There is a lot of injuries, lacking like the likes of Muller, lacking the likes of Gnabry up front is certainly a big point, but VAR on the right hand side, but still. No excuses for the champions, for 6-tuple winners Bayern. That's it from me for this match recap. I'm your boy, the HID of the PSP. Like, share, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, enable notifications to receive all the updates. Follow us on social media, Side PSP on Twitter, PitchSidePod on Instagram. Listen to the podcast. The episode dropped earlier in the day on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform. And until the next time, which will be after the Liverpool vs Everton derby in the Premier League, I'll be seeing you soon.